So our upload and image processing works. Now what we need to do is to be able to remove the image. At the moment, if we click on remove image, it will remove it from the view, but we only returning success true. So if we refresh the page, you'll see that these images are back. That's because obviously we don't do anything to these records at the moment. We are just sending the request to the server, and our product image controller, all it does, it just returns JSON without doing anything with the given record. Okay, so we're going to change it, obviously. We're going to start with a new test. So I'm going to start with the terminal PHP artisan make test, and we are going to call this test product image destroy test. So product image destroy test. Once the test has been added, let's just open it. What we are going to do is the setup is going to be the same as for the product. So I'm just going to use the product image store test. So I'm just going to copy this. Let's just actually add some doc blocks to it here. So setup and returns void. And let's just copy all this. The same for the imports for these trades. We're going to use the same ones. So let's just import them straight away right at the top. And I'm going to reorganize all this like that. Okay, so the first thing we're going to do is check that the request fails with missing file field. So test validation fails with missing file field. And we're going to start with this assert count. And we're going to go for 0, this product assets. So it doesn't have any assets at the moment. And we go for response. This, and we're using delete JSON. Root will be product destroy image. And we need to pass product ID. And we don't pass the ID of the file we want to remove. So we should get this assert response unprocessable with JSON. So we pass the response, and then what JSON should we get? Should be file, and using the language file, this needs to be an array, obviously. We are looking for validation, and it's going to be required, and the attribute will be called file. So that's what we should file this way. That's what we should receive. Let's just run this test, and it's obviously failing. We're getting 200 as if everything was okay. So what we need to do is go to our controller, which is on the HTTP controllers product image controller, and we need to, the same way as we did with the store, create a request file, and this request file will take care of all the validation rules. So terminal PHP artisan make request this time, and we are going to put it under the product namespace, and we're going to call it remove image request. So now with that created, we should have it under request product remove image request. Great, so we can inject it to this destroy method. Remove image request, we call it request. Let's update doc blocks, and let's now navigate to this remove image request. Authorize is not something I'm bothered here with, and it's going to return array, and validation will be file. It is required, and a rule exists. It needs to exist within the assets table by ID of the file that we're passing through. Where function, we take builder, this is eloquent builder query, and here we specify additional where condition. So query where, and we're gonna go for array, and it's going to be type needs to be image, assets type class, then acceptable ID needs to be this root product ID, and obviously from the root we take this attribute that we are passing. If we check roots again, web, deleting product, that will represent the ID of the product for which we are removing the given asset. And then obviously that will resolve to the model, the instance of the model, and we want its ID. And then we have acceptable type needs to be product class. There we go. So that's what this given asset needs to have associated. So it needs to be an image type. It needs to be of the product, associated with the product model with this specific ID. Okay, so these are our rules. We can now save and close all this, and let's check our test again. And now, there we go. Now it's passing. So the next test will be validation fails with empty file field. So if we have file field but it doesn't contain anything, so let's just copy this, 0 assets, and we are passing. So in this case we are going to have array, and it's going to be file, just an empty string. And exactly same message we should get because it's also required. So there we go. That's also passing. The next one will be referring to the invalid file field. So if we pass anything for the file that doesn't exist in the database, so test, and it's going to go for validation fails with invalid file field. And again, I'm just going to copy all this. Now we're going to say, we obviously don't have any assets. So I'm just going to go for 1. And rather than required, it's going to be exists. And again, attribute is going to be file. Let's run this test. And that is failing. We have 500 here. Let's just quickly check why this is. This without exception handling. Let's run it, and tells me product argument one post closure must be instance of database builder, instance of query. Oh, sorry, of course, that is because I passed. If I just go back to this request of image request, that's not the eloquent, it's the query builder here, not eloquent. Sorry, so import class, it's gonna be there we go, illuminated database query builder rather than eloquent one. Wrong type. Okay, so let's run a test again without this line without exception handling, and that is still failing. So let's just go back 1. And what does it tell me now? Trying to get property ID of non-object. And this is because if I remove this without exception handling, if we open our providers and root service provider, this is because we are actually using this product, but we haven't explicitly bind it from within the root service provider. So we need to, under the boot method inside of the root service provider, and I show you why this makes a difference. Now, you may remember that our product image controller uses the product being injecting product directly to this method. That's why it's automatically resolving it to the product instance. But when we are not doing this from within the request itself, if we want to get instance of the model, we actually have to explicitly bind it from within the root service provider. So we're going to start with the root. And here I'm going to start with the pattern. So patterns, and we're gonna go, actually it's just a pattern in this case, and we're gonna need the key and then the patterns of product. I want the pattern to be, I want only to allow the integer. So it's gonna be 0-9 and any number. So plus, and that's the pattern for this particular parameter. Then we're going to have root again. Root facade, and we're going to go for bind, and we're going to go for product, and when we get the product we want to resolve it. It's going to be integer product that we're going to receive. We want to resolve it to the model instance of the model by .id. So return, it's going to be product, and we're going to go with assets. So we eager load assets together with this model, and then find or fail by this given ID, product ID. Okay, so if we save it now, run a test, and you can see it's now passing. And this is because now we have access to the instance of the product when we are actually calling this root product. This will now, rather than returning the ID, will return the instance of the product model. So now it's time for the last test method. This time we're checking that the image is actually being removed. So test removes image. And we are going to start, and I'm going to lift it up a little bit. We are going to start with storage fake. First of all, what we're going to do is to check that we don't have any assets for this given product. So assert count is 0, where we go for this product assets. Then we're going to go for the response. This post JSON root product store image. We pass the product ID, and we pass the image. So file uploaded, that file illuminate HTTP uploaded file, and we're going to go for fake. We're generating image, which we'll call image.jpg. And now this product equals this product fresh assets. We basically fetching the fresh version of the product with the assets, and then we go for this assert count. Now we should have one asset associated with the product, so product assets. Then what we also need to do is to check that let's associate the asset from this product assets, and let's get the first one. And then this assert response created. We're not going to be checking anything else with this response. That's all. We've done all this when we were testing the image upload. So it's been created. Now we want to check storage facade, and we check assert exists, and we go for asset path. So that image needs to exist, and then this assert equals, we're going to go for storage facade URL asset path equals the same as asset URL. So they need to match. Same way as this is pretty much the same as we did with when we were writing tests for the upload. But now we need to make sure all this is true before we actually remove the image, because then we want to check that obviously all these things are gone when we remove the image. So next response will be associated with this delete JSON pointing to root product destroy image, also with this product ID. And this time we're passing the file as the ID of the asset, so asset ID. And I'm going to check now this assert response OK with JSON response, and we get JSON success true. And then we check this product. Let's just fetch the fresh version, fresh with assets, and we're gonna go for this assert count 0 when we go for this product assets. Then we're going to have this assert count 0 when we fetch all assets, so asset all, there shouldn't be any. And lastly, storage asset missing asset path, but we also need to check that all variants that have been generated are also gone. So to do this, we're going to use collect helper to put asset variants array into the collection, and then we're gonna loop using each method on it function. Each variant is represented by the array variant, and we need to make sure that storage it's not strong, storage, come on, storage. Okay, storage, facade, assert, missing, and it's going to be variant path. Now we didn't check for variants here, so let's now go back here. Assert exists. We also gonna do the same for this one. So we have assert variants, but this time it should be assert exists rather than missing. So when we upload it, they should exist. The main image should exist and the variant should exist after we've removed it. There are no records and there are no files within the storage. Okay, if we run this test, let's see what we see. Okay, I failed asserting that null matches expected file, and that is on line, which line is it? It doesn't tell me which. Oh, it's 118, which is failing here. Assert equals. So storage URL assert path. Let's see. URL. No, UR. Let's try again. All those typos. 129. 129. It's here. Assert counts. Okay, so it doesn't remove anything at the moment. We still have one record after calling all this. So back in our product image controller, under the destroy method, what we need to do is use our product service, and then we are going to add remove image method, which will receive request file, which is basically going to be the ID of the given file. Under this remove image request, let's just add some doc block as well. And let's just specify that we're expecting to have one property called file, which is going to be of the integer type. So file, there we go. Now this highlight here is gone. Okay, remove reimage under the product service. So services, product service, and here after our save image, we're going to have this method public remove image. It takes integer, which is the ID of the product, and it will return void, which means nothing, obviously. And here we're going to have remove page product image, and let's add the return statement as well. And that's going to be very simple. It's just going to be this asset repository remove, and here we're going to pass asset find and the record by the given ID. So that's all we are passing to this remove, because the remove receives an instant of the asset or the collection, depending if you want to remove multiple files at the same time. You have this option, you can do it. We're going to provide the implementation for both. Okay, so that's our product service. So let's just see all imports are fine. We can close this fine. We can also close our controller because it's now completed. Let's just rearrange the imports as well. And I think that's everything. Obviously, you may remove this callback depending on how you feel with this. If you want to first apply this grayscale or whatever you've applied to it, but I'm going to leave it for now. And back to our repository. So repositories, Eloquent asset repository, our remove method. So here what we're going to start with is, first of all, we are going to check what we are receiving as an argument. So if assets is instance of collection, Illuminate support collection, then we are going to go for assets each, and we're gonna call a method on this asset repository, which we'll create in just a second. So on this instance of the object, call method to remove single file. And after this, rather than just removing, making call to the database with each iteration, because there might be quite a few files, we're just going to do one asset where in ID assets pluck, we're going for ID, we want all IDs, and then we are just going to call delete. So all those records with these IDs, remove them with a single statement. And then we're going to go for else if we have assets is instance of asset model. Then what we're going to do is this remove single file. We pass this asset through as an argument, and then we're going to go for asset delete. So we remove just this single record. Now, lastly, if it's neither collection nor asset, then we're going to throw an exception. Throw new invalid argument exception, just a standard PHP one. Okay, let's just import this. at the top here. There we go. Invalid argument exception. So now we need to obviously create this remove single file method, which is going to be public as well, because we are using this from within this each statement here. So it needs to be public, it needs to be publicly accessible. Asset as the instance, because that's what we're going to receive either with single iteration or we just pass it straight through here. And it's going to return void as well. And let's add some dog blocks. Remove asset, and here remove return void, and it will actually throw exception as well eventually if it has to. So we start with the storage facade disk. We need to get the disk of the given asset. So asset disk, which is stored obviously in the database as well with each asset. Again, handy thing if you've uploaded files first to one storage and then to the other, you can simultaneously obviously serve files from multiple storage locations. And then we have delete. We're passing asset and its path. So that's the main file removed. Now collect. We're going to collect all of the variants. So variants, so asset, variants, and we're going to go for each again. And a callback function will take array as a variant. And we use asset as well within this callback. And here we're going to go for storage, disk, and here's where this asset comes into play. We need to make sure that we're using correct disk, and then delete, and we go for variant and a path. So that's going to remove all the variants as well. So it removes the main file and then all the variants generated for this main file. Okay, and I think that's everything. This delete method, boolean, and this. No, it's all good. Okay, so no exception. It wouldn't be thrown obviously here. It would be thrown here when we are deleting, because this delete method can throw the exception, but not from when we actually removing the file itself, only when we actually removing it from a database. Okay, so that's our implementation for removing the assets. Let's just save it and let's run our test again. And we have some problem here. Asset missing, call to undefined methods. Asset, no, okay. Assert. Where is this? Product image destroy 1, 3. Of course, assert missing. These typos are terrible. Okay. And there we go. And our test now passing, which means that our images now, if we go back to the browser, refresh, and let's just, before we do this, storage. Let's look at our local storage here, public storage rather. If I start deleting them, let's remove this first one. We received success true. Files have been removed. That's great. And if we check database, refresh, that file's been removed as well. If I refresh page, that's gone. If we remove this one, that should also be gone. Files are gone, and record from a database also, as well as this last one. And the same thing, records and the files. So that seemed to be working. Let's just remove this space. What we're going to be doing in the next video is to finally start connecting to DigitalOcean and serving our files from DigitalOcean spaces.